Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I welcome our witnesses as well, and really thank you for the work you've done. You've all appeared before us in classified settings to update us on a very regular basis on the effort in Ukraine. We appreciate the cooperative relationship between the executive branch and the legislative branch on this matter. And more than anything, we appreciate your leadership in supporting Ukraine so effectively over the course of the last year. I think it's hard to really imagine the massive undertaking that has been done in the last year since Russia made its decision to invade, and really since in the weeks and to some degree months before the invasion, when we came to realize from our intelligence community that this was going to happen. First of all, we were about the only country in the world that thought it was going to happen. Even the Ukrainians themselves, right up literally to the day of the invasion, thought that we were exaggerating the intelligence and that this wasn't actually going to happen. So from pretty much a dead stop, the Biden administration had to pull together a massive coalition to do something that almost all of the countries involved in that coalition had never contemplated doing and certainly had hoped they would never have to do. And we've done that with a remarkable outcome. The way that coalition was pulled together and the forces that have been given and the weapons that have been given to Ukraine to enable them to be as successful as they have been, combined, of course, with their unbelievable courage and tenacity, is really a remarkable accomplishment. And I think we need to understand it in that perspective. Obviously, we would like Ukraine to win tomorrow, Russia to be completely pushed out. But I think we also have to be realistic about the challenge that we faced and how we've gone about meeting that challenge, and really how effective we've been in doing that. Now, the purpose of this hearing specifically is on oversight. I think we have had a lot of oversight on this effort from the very beginning. And that is part of the reason why the effort has been so successful. There are constant efforts to sort of spin stories, primarily coming from Russian propaganda, about corruption and weapon systems going where they're not supposed to be. But people who have looked at this, and I know the chairman has done this in great detail, have found that there is no instance of that happening. We have seen the effectiveness. And the best evidence of this, clearly and unequivocally, is the fact that the Ukrainians have been as successful on the battlefield as they have been. If the weapons and equipment and support that we were sending them was being sent elsewhere or stolen or misused, they would have lost a long time ago. Because I think one of the other things that we forget here is even us, in the U.S., we saw the war coming, we supported Ukraine, but even us, along with everybody else, thought the Ukrainians didn't stand a chance. We thought that the Russians would be in Kyiv in a week or two, a month at the most. So the fact that they've been as successful as they have been is the best evidence we have that these systems and support that we're sending them is being as well used as it possibly can. And I do want to touch upon the point that the chairman made about how the administration hasn't been quick enough. You know, one of the things that we've heard, not just from critics of the war who don't want to support it, but even from people who do support it, is that there can't be a blank check. That's been sort of the criticism that you take if you want to sort of make it sound like you're still with Ukraine, but you want to be responsible. And I think that's appropriate, okay? But no blank check means no blank check. It means we don't just send everything that people ask for in the blink of an eye without even thinking about it, okay? We think about it and we get the Ukrainians what they really need. And I'm going to go ahead and hit upon one of those examples because I think this is a really good example of the problem, and that is the F-16, which everyone has become obsessed over here in recent weeks. We have considered that request, and I've had many conversations with the witnesses before us and with the DOD as well. And the honest truth is the cost of trying to get the F-16 up and ready to operate in Ukraine, even if we basically said there's nothing more important than that one weapon system and spent all of our time and all of our resources on doing it, best case scenario, we could maybe get some operational F-16s into Ukraine within a year, maybe 8 months if we really pushed it. And this is getting lucky, all right? Because you don't just have to train the pilots. You have to train the mechanics. You have to have airfields that can accommodate the F-16. And you have to have the spare parts to make it work. So we looked at that and we determined that is not a wise use of the resources that are necessary to win the fight. That's what no blank check means. You don't just send it without thinking about it. We thought about it and reached a very intelligent conclusion that this is not the right system. And oh, by the way, a fourth-generation fighter in this particular fight is going to struggle to survive. There are isolated circumstances where the Ukrainians have been able to use the MiG-29s that they have. very isolated because it's a fourth-generation fighter in the face of a ton of air defense. What we are getting the Ukrainians is those air defense systems that they desperately need to survive right now, and the artillery and the HIMARS and the weapon systems that they do need. So the administration is doing exactly what it needs to do, getting equipment as quickly and as responsibly as possible to make this work. And I also want to make everybody aware of the fact the Russians are fighting a massive information campaign. Yes, they're fighting on the battlefield, and I'll look forward to hearing more details about that today, but they are also trying to break the coalition. You know, the Russian military has performed incredibly poorly. The Ukrainians have performed incredibly heroically, and the war is not going the way that Putin wanted it to, but he is not giving up. And he knows his only hope is to break the coalition that is trying to support Ukraine. And they're trying to do that in a variety of different ways. I mean, you can see all the different arguments about how, well, NATO really started this because of NATO expansion and a whole lot of other nonsense arguments that are circulating out there. But the other part of the way they're doing it is any break in the coalition they see, they're poking and they're prodding, okay? They want to undermine the Biden administration. So while we have constructive criticism of what's going on, let's make sure that that criticism is constructive and we maintain our unity. And I know it is very, very difficult for the folks on the other side of the aisle to say anything positive about the Biden administration. But part of holding this coalition together is to acknowledge the incredible job that has been done in the last year and to maintain that unity and to not jump at every shiny object that seems to be criticism of the Biden administration, like the F-16. Right now, and I've asked this question, we are getting every single weapon system that we can to Ukraine. There is not a decision being made about that might be escalatory. It's about what can we get to them? How can we maintain the support? We've spent a lot of money. There is not a limitless amount of money or a limitless amount of equipment. So I think those decisions are being made wisely. I look forward to this hearing. I think it's perfectly appropriate that we have aggressive oversight as we've had since the beginning. And that's part of the reason why we've been as successful to date as we have been. With that, I yield back. I look forward to hearing from our witnesses.